Today I'm reacting to your Monday Night Raw Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether those are good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you're following me on X because I ask for your hot takes there after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. Now, if you are looking for my nearly 40-minute review of this particular episode of Monday Night Raw with footage so that you can see exactly what it is that I'm talking about, that's already up and available over on patreon.com/SantiZap. I'll put a link in the description as well as a link in the pinned comment. I obviously can't upload that here because it would just get blocked due to copyright. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I know that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. Seriously, we do. I'm over 2 years of daily videos, if you can believe that. All right, let's see what you sent in. Asuka should win the Queen of the Ring tournament and face Io Sky at SummerSlam. Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've had blinders on when it comes to the Queen of the Ring tournament over the last couple of weeks. I've either expected Jade Cargill to win or just simply wanted Stephanie Vaquer to win. But now seeing Asuka return to the WWE with that new face paint, with her old entrance theme, and feeling like she's back to being scary, my goodness, I am sold on a deep Queen of the Ring run for Asuka. And if you're gonna sit there and earnestly tell me that Asuka's gonna win the Queen of the Ring and that she's gonna go on to have a main event program with Io Sky at SummerSlam, you think I'm gonna scoff at that? I say, hell yeah, baby, bring it on. Asuka is one of my favorite female performers in the history of the WWE, but over the last couple of years, it's felt like she has missed a step. She felt slower, and being in the tag team division really minimized that danger factor that she always brought. But if you go back and watch her return match, she felt snappy, she felt hard-hitting, she felt like the old Asuka was back, and I'm here for that. And if this means one last final proper main event push for Asuka, I really want to see that, because even when Asuka was a world champion on the main roster, it never felt like she was at the top of the mountain. I hope that they can try it one more time and run it with Io at SummerSlam. That would be awesome. As someone who's a fan of all four of them, this is going to be a long week for me. All four of them have good reason as to why they need to win, and I'm curious on how this will all play out. Either way, they all have history with one another, and they can tell a very compelling stories for all four. I've been seeing a lot of people complain about the fact that the four King of the Ring finalists are babyfaces and that it's specifically these four babyfaces, but I really don't see a problem. When your two top champions are heels in Gunther and John Cena, I think it makes perfectly logical sense for the four finalists of the King of the Ring who are vying for an opportunity at one of the heel champions to all be babyfaces, because if there was a heel in the mix here, I would just know that they're not gonna win. But I love what you said here. I love the fact that all four of these guys have interweaving history with one another, specifically Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. If that were to be a final, holy hell, that is a battle between brothers. The other potential final would also be a battle between brothers in Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes. What's not to love about that? There are so many interesting babyface narratives that can be told in the semifinal that could then be further explored and dissected in the finals, that this makes this a very fascinating final couple of matches in the King of the Ring tournament. And as you said, all four of these guys have a compelling story to tell and a reason to go after the World Heavyweight Champion or the WWE Undisputed Champion. You have Jey Uso, who just lost his first ever World Heavyweight Championship and wants to run it back. Sami Zayn, a guy that's been grinding for 15 plus years that's yet to win a world title. Randy Orton chasing immortality for 15, and Cody Rhodes trying to save professional wrestling for John Cena. Any one of these four guys could genuinely, realistically win this tournament, and that's not something that I can say about previous King of the Ring tournaments in the semifinals. So I, for one, am glad that they picked four guys that could realistically win, because I genuinely, right now, cannot predict who's going to win this thing. My favorite to win it is still Cody Rhodes, because I think WWE is dead set on doing Cody versus John Cena at SummerSlam, but if you told me it was Jey Uso or Sami Zayn, I'd also probably believe you. I don't think that AJ Styles should be in the Intercontinental Championship race. I do think right now it's one of the better places to put AJ Styles, but I do think that the best place right now to put AJ Styles would be in front of Gunther. Having AJ Styles go after one more world championship sounds incredibly compelling to me, and giving Gunther a brand new opponent, not named Goldberg, in the name of AJ Styles sounds like an absolute treat to me. One of the problems with Gunther's last world championship run is that they didn't really put like that many credible opponents in front of him during his championship run, but putting an AJ Styles in front of him right off the get-go would be a very much credible opponent. It could still eventually go down that route, but if they are dead set on doing the Goldberg thing, I guess best second place for AJ Styles to be in is the Intercontinental Championship picture. Because at the very least, we'll be using AJ Styles to elevate a younger talent in Dominic Mysterio, who's going to be a cornerstone of WWE heel wrestling for a really, really long time. So happy to see Asuka back. It made it so much better and put a huge smile on my face when I heard her old theme. Welcome back, Asuka. It's crazy how much a theme could just change your perception of somebody, how quickly it can bring back memories that person has accumulated. And here we are, just by simply changing her theme, it feels like they brought back the Asuka of old. Obviously, we've yet to really see what this new Asuka looks like from an in-ring perspective, because we only really have one match under her belt, and it's a fatal four-way match where she didn't have to carry the majority of the load. But still, we have something, and having her old entrance theme back has a lot of people thinking really positive about one last final main event Asuka push. And that's not to say that the theme that she had when she was injured was bad. It was fine, but this thing's iconic. Gunther and Goldberg being announced makes me happy. I'm going to All In Texas. I think it's hilarious that this is what WWE is going with to try and counter program All In Texas. Like, come on. I'm not going to miss out on Kenny Omega and Okada because of Gunther and Goldberg. I'm not going to miss out on Jon Moxley finally losing that AEW championship because of Gunther and Goldberg. I'm not missing out on Mercedes Moné versus Toni Storm because of Gunther versus Goldberg. If this is WWE's idea of counter programming, oh man, bad. This isn't going to work. I think you're going to have a great time at All In Texas, and it's definitely the show to watch on that night. I know this is his last match, but death, taxes, and Goldberg getting a world title match every time he comes back. So it hasn't actually been properly confirmed that this is a retirement match. It may very well be. It might get announced as a, career versus title match a little bit later on. I feel like if that is the case, if this is Goldberg's last match, you should put the career on the line so that Gunther can be the one to say that he properly ended Goldberg's career, so that we can use that to catapult Gunther even further up the chain. Listen, if you've been a wrestling fan for any period amount of time, you know that this is just the formula the WWE does with Goldberg. Goldberg arrives, you put him against the world champion. You would think that it'd just be a fun little exhibition match and that Goldberg wouldn't win, but unfortunately, history has shown us that Goldberg does sometimes win these things. So if you think that there's no chance that Goldberg's your next world heavyweight champion, I think that you're just being purposely ignorant, and I get it. Ignorant is bliss. You don't want to think about the horrible world about Goldberg being our world heavyweight champion, but there's a chance. Call me crazy, but Goldberg might honestly be the favorite in this match. I could see them putting the strap on Goldberg again to do some passing of the torch moment rematch at SummerSlam. Not saying I'd love it, but I know how WWE loves their precious Goldberg. Listen, at first glance, what they're saying might seem ridiculous, but I promise you, when you really peel back the layers, when you look back at the history books of what WWE has done with Goldberg in the past, this is very much a possibility. No, Santi, they're not going to take the strap of the up-and-coming heel that's taking over the WWE for the sake of giving this to the aging Goldberg. Ask that to The Fiend. One of the coolest things that WWE had ever done, one of the new things that WWE had actually gotten over with the fans. Boom, killed by Goldberg in a matter of minutes and lost the world championship to this man. So yeah, again, there's a chance. Is there a very low percentage chance? Yes, it's a very low percentage chance. But just like hand sanitizer only kills 99.999% of germs, you know who that 0.00001% of germs is? Goldberg winning a world championship that he doesn't deserve. I think it would be a lame-ass passing of the torch moment for Gunther to lose and then immediately win it back 3 weeks later. I also think it's lame that they made Jey Uso lose the world championship for the sake of doing this match, because if you ask me, this match doesn't need a world title at all. Go back to that promo. They didn't even bring up the world title. You could have done that exact same segment with Gunther not holding any championship at all, and it would have landed the exact same way. But now I'm just nervous that we're going to have Gunther lose the championship to Goldberg. I have very mixed emotions about Gunther versus Goldberg. It's obviously somewhat of a dream match, but in the state that Goldberg is in, I just don't see it being a good match, even if it's a squash match with the time that Saturday night's main event gets. I think that the silver lining here is that you shouldn't expect a match that goes on for more than 4 minutes. I think it's going to be a very, very quick match. Now, if you are expecting a classic out of Goldberg, I feel like you're putting your expectations entirely too high. Your expectations should be a very mediocre, quick match with a fair amount of finishers within the first couple of minutes, and that's it. I think that the drama of this match will be that in those couple of minutes, it'll probably look like Goldberg is actually going to win this thing. That's what's going to get your heart racing. If you want to be really optimistic, then we should maybe expect a match like the one that we got between Goldberg and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 33, I think it was, if I'm remembering my WrestleManias, not WrestleMania 20. We don't want a match like that one, because that match was a chaotic 5-minute finisher fest that was actually a weirdly good amount of fun. And if there's a guy that could get a decent match out of Goldberg in this couple of minutes, it is probably Gunther. And look, WWE traditionally, you know, not always, especially recently with the most recent Saturday Night's Main Event, they don't tend to do like the biggest things at Saturday Night's Main Event. And one of the things that they've yet to do is change a world championship on that show. And I don't think that they're going to start with Goldberg versus Gunther. That being said, I don't want you to sleep nicely at night, because there's still a possibility that Goldberg could win this. I don't mind Goldberg getting the title match against Gunther. I personally like title versus career, and I think Gunther will prove that he's one of, if not the best in-ring worker, if he can get a good match out of Goldberg. Honestly, if Gunther can get a genuinely good match out of Goldberg, I don't think that Gunther should be in the WWE. I feel like Gunther should have a magic show in Las Vegas alongside Siegfried and Roy, alongside David Blaine, alongside Chris Angel, because this man would be a magician if he can get a great match out of Goldberg. Again, the aura of Goldberg matches isn't good matches. It is the drama that gets built up in a really short amount of time. Go back and watch the Survivor Series match between Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, a 2-minute squash that I watched live. That was actually mega hype. And it wasn't about, you know, Goldberg having a good match. It was the shock and awe that we got out of seeing Goldberg destroying Brock Lesnar. And hopefully, I really say this, hopefully that is not the shock and awe that they decide to go for with shocking and awing us with a Goldberg win out of nowhere on Gunther. Here's what I'm expecting out of this match. A spear right at the beginning of the match, a jackhammer. You think Goldberg wins, Gunther kicks out, then Gunther hits a couple of symphony of power bombs and then puts Goldberg in a sleeper, and that's it. That'll probably be the match. Babyface Bayley is not working for me. You could tell that the crowd chants felt forced and very awkward. She clearly works better as a heel. Listen, I've actually been getting this message over the last year and a bit that Bayley has been a babyface. For a lot of people, babyface Bayley just hasn't really worked. I personally haven't minded babyface Bayley. I do think that she's better off as a heel, but this particular promo, I agree with you. This was awkward as hell. When Bayley was out there, before she said anything, she was trying to bait the hey Bayley, ooh, chants. She's like, oh, I hear you guys starting the song. No, it's all right. You guys will get it. And then she basically guilted everyone into chanting Bayley. I don't really fully understand her babyface character at the moment yet. I think maybe I need to see more between her and Becky Lynch, maybe a little bit more of her dynamic with Lyra Valkyria, because I don't fully get the motivations of babyface Bayley, at least not at the moment. I get that she is mad that Becky Lynch attacked her and took her WrestleMania spot, but when you go back and listen to that promo, that's not even what she was mad about. She's upset about the fact that she's always been a couple of rungs below Becky Lynch, and she hasn't been able to really grab and climb up the hierarchy as much as Becky Lynch has. But I don't know, how is that Becky Lynch's problem? Had Bayley come back and pissed that she lost her WrestleMania spot to Becky Lynch and wants to get vengeance back, I feel like that'd just be a lot more of a simple motivation that'd just be easier to get behind. But right now, I'm starting to piece together why the hell Bayley is going after Becky Lynch right now. Stephanie Vaquer has shown enough to convince me that she is a future world title holder, and I can't wait. I hate that she lost, and I would have liked her advancing far more than Asuka. So going into the match, I was dead set on it being Stephanie Vaquer. In fact, I wanted Stephanie Vaquer to go all the way to the final, similarly to how Lyra Valkyria went to the final and getting that big Finn Balor-like push right off the get-go from being called up from NXT. But she lost, and she didn't get pinned, so there's that. But we also got Asuka winning, which I pleasantly surprised about how happy I am about that. So I don't think it's the end of the world. I still agree with your first sentiment that she is a future world title holder and she's going to win. You say you can't wait. I'm going to tell you to wait, because good things come to those that wait, if Triple H is to be believed. But I don't think it's going to be very long for Stephanie Vaquer to be a world champion in the WWE. It will probably happen in 2025. Asuka on her return looked really good and the crowd loved her. If WWE isn't going to go for the safe option with Jade, I think Asuka Asuka winning the Queen of the Ring and going after Io would be pure cinema. I think you hit it on the head there. I think so many of us are just kind of convinced that WWE is going to go with the safe route because more often than not, that's what they do. WWE doesn't like to necessarily overcomplicate things if they don't need to be overcomplicated. And I at many times appreciate that. You guys have heard me say 2 + 2 should just equal 4. If you should just go with the obvious choice because the obvious choice is the best, go with the obvious choice. But right now, with Asuka coming back and looking as great as she did, I'm not yet convinced that the most obvious choice is necessarily the best choice. We'll have to see how these semifinals turn out because right now I'm starting to lean and sway a little bit more towards seeing one final proper Asuka push in the main event scene. Because Jade Cargill has the main event scene like right there. Like we don't need her to win the Queen of the Ring necessarily. She's already got like clearly many paths to get to the main event scene, to get to world championship opportunities. Her feud with Naomi is certainly one of those opportunities. If Naomi were to win the world championship by cashing in, just a feud between Naomi and Jade Cargill just makes sense without having to put Jade Cargill through the hoops. So Jade Cargill is going to get there, regardless of whether she wins the Queen of the Ring or not. Asuka, on the other hand, I think she needs that little bit of extra juice to catapult her right back to where she belongs. And I think she needs that little extra boost, that little extra juice, because she spent so long being kind of a background character in Damage Control that much of her main event aura has kind of dissipated, and we need to get it back. Thank God Karrion Kross is getting to be in the ring again. It's been so long. He's always just backstage area. It's kind of getting boring. Folks, did you listen to that pop when Karrion Kross appeared on screen for the first time, not on commercial break? By the way, I'm not convinced that he wasn't meant to be on commercial break. I think that they might have pushed him to be on the main show after the Liv Morgan injury kind of forced things to shift around. But hey, we got Karrion Kross on TV. I'm not going to complain about that. He's got a match against Sami Zayn sometime soon. They didn't properly confirm when it's going to be, but at the very least, it's a match. I just can't believe we're at the point right now with Karrion Kross where we are just so happy at getting any amount of Karrion Kross crumbs that we pop out of our seats when we see Karrion Kross get 30 seconds of TV time and then lose our minds when he finally gets a match announced that we don't even know when it's happening. Clearly, this is a guy that people want to see. So hopefully, WWE listens to the crowd, understands that, even though they've tried before and it's fallen flat, now might be the time to push Karrion Kross. It seems like Karrion Kross, when he was getting his pushes, it was just the wrong guy at the wrong time. Now it might be the right guy at the wrong time, sadly. Karrion Kross is going to remind the world in his match versus Sami Zayn on why he is a main event player and should win the World Heavyweight Championship at some point. Oh God. Okay. All right. Listen. All right. Temper your expectations. We're excited about him getting a match that we don't even know when it's going to happen. It could happen in like 4 weeks as far as we know, because it's not going to happen until all of the King of the Ring stuff is done. And you're already fantasy booking a World Heavyweight Championship run. Come on, bro. Temper it down and let's just be happy that we're getting a Karrion Kross match. Liv Morgan is an absolute workhorse and the hardest working woman in the WWE. The Liv Morgan injury is so gutting, especially with how many eggs in the basket of Liv Morgan storylines WWE placed going into SummerSlam and into Evolution. Think about everything that Liv Morgan was doing outside of the WWE. First of all, doing all of those media appearances, but within the WWE, she was feuding with Io Sky. She was feuding with Nikki Bella. She was feuding with B-Fab and Michin for the tag titles. She was feuding with Roxanne Perez, the storyline with Dominic Mysterio. WWE created a Liv Morgan universe, and unfortunately, all of that just needs to be paused because of this injury, and oh my God, does that suck. There's clearly no time that's a good time to be injured, but I think that in this scenario, this is the worst time to possibly get injured, and that is just so awful for everybody involved. I obviously wish nothing but the best and speediest recovery for Liv Morgan. I know dislocated shoulders are an absolute bitch to bounce back from, but sometimes they can be easy to bounce back from if there's no ligament damage. So fingers crossed. Seriously, I hope that she doesn't miss Evolution or SummerSlam or any of these major shows that WWE is building around Liv Morgan. I really hope that AJ Styles elevates Dominic Mysterio's title reign to where it really feels like a main event title and Dom feels like a main event guy. WWE has just been fumbling with Dominic Mysterio in the Intercontinental Championship run. I think that he should have been having many of these types of feuds, but at least I'm glad that we're finally getting something, and it's against a perennial main eventer, against the first ballot Hall of Famer in AJ Styles. This will be Dominic's biggest feud of his career outside of his feud with his own dad in Rey Mysterio. I feel like this is more a match that Dominic and the title needs more so than AJ Styles. This championship reign desperately needed a guy like AJ Styles to be going after for it. I hope they get more than one match as well, because I would love for when the dust settles from this feud that Dominic Mysterio, as you said, might be primed for the main event scene. It's also nice to see Dominic not feuding against a geometric shape like a pentagon or an octagon. I was genuinely expecting for Dominic Mysterio to have his next feud against Hijo del Triangle or something. I seriously hope that Kairi Sane will be okay after what just happened. Wishing Liv a speedy recovery, and let's hope Kairi push will still come despite all of the backlash that unfolded. Listen, all of the backlash regarding Kairi Sane being an unsafe worker, it's just people online that just don't know what they're talking about. Injuries happen in the world of the WWE. It's unfortunate that they're happening more often than they've happened before in the time that I've been watching professional wrestling. And it's double unfortunate that two of the most high-profile injuries that have happened in recent time have happened in matches with Kairi Sane. But the Zoe Stark injury is just a freak accident. And then the Liv Morgan thing was like the most rudimentary, simple, like beginning of the match bump that I've ever seen. And that's sometimes where injuries happen. I've rolled my ankle and like ruined my football season just doing walkthrough stretches before, all right? Sometimes just bad things happen during rudimentary things, and you don't have to necessarily put the blame on anybody. It's just, I don't know, a Final Destination type moment. I really hope that none of you are blaming Kairi Sane. I'm sure that, you know, as a performer, Kairi Sane's got to be feeling bad. That's two high-profile injuries that have happened in front of her, and, you know, that's got to suck. I've seen this float around that it's possible that Liv Morgan's injury is a work, and okay, I'm done reading this one. This one sucks. Stop assuming that injuries are works, all right? People get injured, all right? This isn't a work, dude. Like, this is just So I assume they are going to do a storyline where Roxanne takes Liv Morgan's man and championship. It's giving Rhea versus Liv 2.0. Obviously, many of the similarities are there with the injury to Rhea Ripley, the injury to Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio being left alone with a woman that's trying to take his attention. The similarities are there, and if I'm WWE, that's exactly where I would pivot to. I wouldn't overthink this. It all really depends, because if that is the route that they decide to go in, then you have no choice but to bring back Liv Morgan as a babyface. And if your master plan was to make Liv Morgan the top heel in the company, then maybe that doesn't really align with WWE's long-term plans. But I have to agree with you. It is giving Rhea versus Liv 2.0. Like, there's a lot of similarities there, even in terms of the timelines. This really sucks. Liv had so much coming up too. I pray for her that she recovers fast. Hopefully we get her for Evolution. She deserves to be there. Not just Evolution, but SummerSlam as well. She has absolutely earned marquee spots at both of those shows. Now, I'm obviously not a doctor, but I do have somebody that's in the medical field in my Twitch chat, and they mentioned that if there wasn't ligament damage, ligament tears alongside the dislocated shoulder, that she could come back within a couple of weeks. It's when you tear the actual ligaments that takes months to actually recover. So I have fingers crossed that this is one of the good shoulder dislocations so that she can come back maybe as early as Evolution. I think we'll know by next Monday if she appears as an on-screen character, obviously without having matches, and is still appearing in backstage segments. If she's having promos, then I think it's a fair assumption that she's going to maybe be back at the very minimum by SummerSlam, but maybe even Evolution. Having Bronson eat the pin is such a terrible booking decision, even if it wasn't clean. Having someone in the hottest new faction lose this early shoots him in the foot. Sheamus could have just easily been the one pinned while including the LA Knight Bronson part to move the story along. I actually agree with everything that you're saying here. Why is it okay to have Bronson Reed be pinned in his King of the Ring qualifier match, but not Braun Breaker? It seems like we're treating one a lot better than the other. I think it's pretty clear. I think Bronson Reed should have been protected here, 100%. Granted, he did get hit with a spear and 2 splashes, so they protected him in the sense that it took a lot to pin him, and he did get screwed over, but I still don't think he needed to eat that pin. I think Sheamus should have eaten the pin, but I know that they're set on doing Sheamus versus Rusev, which, by the way, was really built up really nicely even within this match, with those guys just wanting to beat the ever-living piss out of one another. But I digress. I still think that Sheamus should have been the one to eat the pin, and they should have protected Bronson Reed. Every time they show an interaction between Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, it gets me hyped AF. It would be amazing to see if Seth tries to be on good terms with Cody until it's time to cash in on Cody to become the champion. I think right now the play is to have Cody Rhodes defeat John Cena at SummerSlam, only for Seth Rollins to cash in and finally get his elusive victory over Cody Rhodes, and doing it in the most evil, dastardly way, cowardly way possible, by cashing in on him after he's tired after a match and taking away the WWE Undisputed Championship. It would catapult Seth Rollins to maniacal evil levels of heel that I haven't seen in in forever. This is a clash that's clearly going to happen at some point or another. I could very well see this being a WrestleMania 42 match. Hell, right now, there's a bunch of matches that could absolutely be worthy of WrestleMania 42, like CM Punk and Cody Rhodes as well. It's a good time to be a fan of the men's main event scene in WWE. But Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins is one of the best feuds of the 2020s, and they haven't explored this in many years now, and I think it's time to run this legendary feud back, and it's going to happen, and it's going to start this year. I wish that LA Knight had interacted with Rollins at the end there, but I'm happy with Cody and Rollins. That might be your WrestleMania 42 main event. Just let LA Knight get a slice of the pie, please. I agree. I would have liked to see LA Knight have a moment with Seth Rollins, because technically, since what happened at Money in the Bank, we haven't really had LA Knight interact with Seth Rollins. It's been LA Knight and the Bronze so far, which, even though it does have LA Knight in a main event feud with a main event faction, it doesn't yet put LA Knight directly in front of the actual top tier main event guy in Seth Rollins. I do think it's inevitable, and I think that maybe they're saving us for it. Maybe they're making LA Knight kind of go through all of the mini bosses before he gets to the final boss. It's gonna be Seth Line Rules. That was cringe. I hate myself. But hey, this is also the wrestling channel where I've got, you know, a man-child's worth amount of wrestling merchandise behind me. So cringe is what we're all about here. While I don't like that Jay was the mystery man and was announced before Raw, I do think that he's the right guy for Sami to beat to make it to the final, so Kross can use Sami beating Jay as proof that he is still as evil as everyone else. I think that you might be onto something there. I do think that a Jey Uso versus Sami Zayn final in the King of the Ring tournament is incredibly appealing because of the emotional aspect of it. And it is a brother versus brother, Uso versus Uso match, and you do kind of have to tap into maybe a little bit of a darker side of you to be able to put that other person across from you away. And maybe that's where all of the Karrion Kross yapping in Sami Zayn's ears finally comes in, and Sami Zayn does the thing that I don't think many of us think he has it in him to do. But I still think that this is putting Karrion Kross on a little bit too high of a pedestal when we're, again, just focused on him even getting a little bit of TV time at the moment. I miss Corey Graves on Raw. He's good on NXT, but he deserves to be main roster commentator. He's so damn good. What I will say is, even though I like Pat McAfee, I haven't missed Pat McAfee at all, in any capacity. I think that Wade Barrett and I think that Corey Graves did an excellent job stepping in, to the point where, like, if Pat McAfee doesn't come back, I really don't think that we're gonna miss him that much, because we have other people in the company that could step in and do just as good, if not better, of a job. Pat McAfee's appeal is in his ability to get, you know, the most fun version of Michael Cole. I will say that no one else can get fun out of Michael Cole like Pat McAfee can. But if you just want like the best possible team to call a wrestling match, then Corey Graves and Wade Barrett are just better than Pat McAfee. Every time Sheamus wrestles, he proves why he deserves more TV time, which is why, again, I say this is exactly where we just should have started Rusev, because Rusev versus Sheamus, this is something I desperately want to see. The fact that these guys, regardless of who else was in the ring, only wanted to beat each other up was awesome. There was this great moment where they were fighting each other. Bronson Reed takes them both out. Bronson watches them both stand up, and as opposed to fighting Bronson, they just go right back to fighting each other like Chicken and Peter Griffin style. It was great. Sheamus is fantastic. He is such a certified banger of an opponent. He will always get the best possible out of any of his opponents, and I can't wait to see like an actual proper, like, hard-hitting, meat-slapping fest of a match between him and Rusev. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching this episode of Hot Takes. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.